Welcome to Civitas LA, where we feature diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. Each week, we hear from, learn from, and are inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward in making Los Angeles a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now more than ever, we aim to elevate civic discourse, foster community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across our region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in the civic conversation of our region. Certainly for the state of California and the greater Los Angeles region, the creative industries, the creative community are significant contributors to our overall health and economic well-being. These sectors have been greatly impacted by the global pandemic. Standing at the forefront of this issue has been Arts for LA. Arts for LA has been a prominent voice for the arts in Greater Los Angeles that seeks to inform, engage, mobilize individuals and organizations to advocate for access to the arts across all communities. Today, we're grateful to have Gustavo Herrera, Executive Director of Arts for LA, with us as we discuss the state of the creative economy, the impacts of COVID-19, and their efforts to advocate for artists, and his thoughts on the way forward beyond this pandemic. Calling in today, Gustavo Herrera. Gustavo, thank you for joining us on Civitas LA.
Thank you, Dwayne. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No, we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to our conversation. Start us off, Gustavo, with a little bit about your background. We always like to share with our audience a little bit of your journey prior to your joining Arts for LA.
Sure. So, Dwayne, I grew up in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. I'm the son of two El Salvadoran immigrants. Grew up low income in Section 8 housing, but to a family who I think deeply appreciated education and creativity. And so, my that's my lens as I look at the world and as I think about the kind of change that Arts for LA can drive. It's really rooted in working families. And so my background, I did a little bit of work with American Honda Corporate. Moved on to lead an LA County museum called La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Did some work with the Classical Music Performance Arts Foundation called the Maestro Foundation. And actually, prior to joining Arts for LA, I spent about 5 years with an organization called Young Invincibles, an organization that's really focused on organizing and mobilizing millennials, so 18 to 34-year-olds. And I had the great pleasure of doing statewide work, working directly with the community in leading policy and changing laws that would positively impact the young adult community. And so it's that framework, that value system, and that experience that really informs my work at Arts for LA. Arts for LA is really, I'm bringing together the worlds of both organizing arts and culture, but also policy change. And that's what our work is centered around. How do we create policy change that's going to positively impact the arts and culture field?
That's great. Give us a brief overview of the history of Arts for LA and its mission and values.
So it's really interesting, Dwayne, because I've been reflecting on the history of Arts for LA a lot, because Arts for LA was started back in 2006. And this was a couple years before the economic downturn in '08. And the reason that folks got together at the time, and when I say folks, I mean arts and culture leaders of Los Angeles County, the reason they got together was because the city and the county of Los Angeles were both considering significant budget cuts to arts and culture. And leaders within the arts and culture field felt it was important that we have a collective voice for the field to be able to advocate against these budget cuts. And so that's really the root and the history of Arts for LA. And fast forward now to 2020, and we are in one of the most challenging times in the history of this country. And we're looking at a trifecta of challenges with a public health crisis, an economic crisis, a social justice crises all in one moment, it's a clear reminder for why an organization like Arts for LA exists. We exist to ensure that we can be the strongest advocate for the arts and culture community, and that is across the sectors. So we represent arts nonprofits, we represent the commercial side, we represent um, local arts agencies. We aim to be a voice for all of those folks, and we're also not siloed to a specific discipline. And so we're working across dance, theater, all of the visual arts, literary. I mean, it's just the gamut of arts and culture.
I was going to ask you when we speak about the term creative community. I was going to ask you to define the number of sectors. How many? What would you say? We know the economic importance of the arts and creativity here in the LA region. Can you share with our audience any data points, such as the number of jobs associated with these different sectors that you're talking about?
Yeah, the data on this is staggering. Uh, the creative economy, and this is based on some Otis report, the Otis report on the creative economy, and these are 2019 numbers. But the creative economy contributes about $203 billion in economic output here in Los Angeles County. And to put that number in perspective, Dwayne, that represents about 1 in 6 jobs. 1 in 6 jobs in Los Angeles County are somehow connected to the arts and culture field. So I hope that that helps put a little bit of specifics to that number. But also, I want to take just a quick moment to also share with you um, some data points around there are 228 museums in LA County. We have about 400 music venues, 330 theaters, about 280 art galleries, 580 historic sites and heritage sites around LA County, not to mention the numerous concert halls, the bookstores, the art centers. The arts are everywhere in LA County. And, LA has often been called America's uh, artist super city. And I think it's because the arts are everywhere.
No, that's amazing, and that's a great set of statistics that you just shared. Um, let's talk about the state of the creative economy. And you referenced the Otis report, which is the Otis College here in Los Angeles, which does a report periodically on the state of the creative community. Share your thoughts on the state of the creative economy prior to COVID, prior to March.
Yeah. So, I do think, and I share this point a lot. I do think that, we as a arts and culture community, um, what COVID has essentially done is exacerbated many of the challenges and the issues that existed within the arts and culture community, um, even prior to March. And what I mean by that is, that this is an artist super city. This is an arts and culture community that exists everywhere. But I think we have fundamentally, as an arts and culture community, struggled with funding. And a clear example of that is if we look at small arts organizations, particularly small arts nonprofit organizations here in LA County. Prior to March, uh, these small organizations were operating on very less than 2 months of operating cash on hand, and this is the average
Wow.
for these small arts organizations. And so I think, although some of the challenges that we're looking at today are being exacerbated by the current challenges, it's compounded with many, for example, performing arts organizations unable to open doors and to convene and to host visitors. I mean, that compounded over the months is having a deep effect, and in many cases, are first forcing closures for many of these arts and culture organizations. And so it's a very challenging time. But again, some of the issues that are resurfacing are issues that our field has struggled with for many years.
Well, I know, even during a stronger economy prior to March, a perennial hot topic, particularly here in Los Angeles, has been around, just issues of land use and affordable housing. So, we hear about the starving artists, and are there any artists who live in the arts district anymore where land prices have gotten so high and housing has gotten so high, and then of course the issue of affordable studio space and gallery space, et cetera. How has Arts for LA been working to address some of these challenges?
So back in 2019, Arts for LA, our organization commissioned a researcher named Allison Agston. And Allison served as our 2019 Laura Zucker Fellow. And the focus of her research, Dwayne, was really around this issue of affordable space. And what she did through her work, and all of this research is available online on the Arts for LA website, but she surveyed about 763 artists.
Okay.
And she asked this question about affordability, and about 89% of the artists responded that housing affordability in Los Angeles County was a very serious concern for them, and about 90% of that same population of artists stated workspace affordability as one of their primary concerns. And we have been working with our community and doing our best to engage our arts and culture organizations around this topic to try and identify what are the key root challenges that are causing the issues, and then what type of policy solutions can we champion as a community to address the root issues. And just last week, we organized our first community strategy session on this topic, uh, and had these type of conversations because we recognize that the affordability issue is a challenge that's for all Angelinos, especially the affordable housing part of the conversation. And in these times, that issue has only become more pronounced. And so we're trying to figure out how can Arts for LA be a voice for the artist community, for arts organizations around this topic. But it's a big issue, and we're concerned that at the end of the day, if we can't keep folks working here and living here, how will we continue to be the creative capital of the world? And so this issue is a fundamental issue alongside three other issues that Arts for LA is prioritizing.
And that's certainly been an issue for, other high cost cities like New York City and San Francisco, where simply the cost of housing has just priced so many people out of those cities. And I do fear that some of that's happening here in Los Angeles as well. It's obviously an understatement to say that COVID's had a negative impact, and you touched on some of this earlier. But can you speak to the impact on certain subsectors within the creative economy? Are there some sectors that are holding on, or how many closures might we expect? Certainly the LA Times had a piece recently that I saw, speaking to the issue of performing arts venues, live theaters. What is your prognosis for live theaters?
Yeah, I to put the what you just shared in scale or in context, the Brookings Institute ran some numbers on this nationwide and found that the creative economy has lost about 2.7 million jobs. About one third of the workforce has been lost as a result of COVID
Nationwide.
nationwide.
Wow. Okay.
Here in LA County, um, we are hearing pretty regularly from the community about the challenges, and certainly the challenges for performing arts are dire. It is a critical moment for performing arts, and performing arts needs an intervention from the city, from the county, from the state, federally, uh, because there is no clear end in sight for when reopening will begin, when we can begin to bring folks back into these spaces. And so I think that the challenge is very, very difficult when we're thinking about performing arts, and something needs to be done. If we look at the different sources of funding, also, uh, that is a difficult conversation. The county, uh, saw about a $1 billion deficit in revenue. That was before the end of this fiscal year. So by June 30th of 2020, there was a $1 billion shortfall. Another projected $1 billion shortfall in this fiscal year. The city is seeing very similar dire situations. And one thing we need to acknowledge is government is a big funding source for many of these organizations. There are 400 organizations who are supported through the LA County Department of Arts and Culture, hundreds on the city side as well, and so we really need to figure out how we can continue to prioritize supporting these organizations, because there are working families, there are working artists at the end of these organizations, and I feel like that's often a point that's missed, and that we really need to emphasize. There are working families at the end of these organizations.
Well, you mentioned, the need for an intervention, and clearly Arts for LA has been at the forefront of advocating, and you've been undertaking a lot of advocacy locally, regionally, at the national level. I recognize that in March, Arts for LA put out an open letter to policymakers and also philanthropy, calling for support for artists and arts and cultural organizations, and you've gotten over 1,000 signatures. What changes have come about in Los Angeles as a result of this, and how's the response been to that call?
Yeah, so that open letter that you reference, we released. I think it was March 23rd, a week and a half after the Safer at Home directives, and like you mentioned, 1,000 signatures to that letter, representing nearly 300 arts and culture organizations. And the community has just been incredible in activating their voices in support of our calls to action. So part of what we were calling for, Dwayne, in that open letter, was for pooled funding from the philanthropic community. And we saw incredible leadership in Joan Weinstein and the Getty Foundation when they launched a $10 million relief and recovery uh, effort for the visual arts community. That was a big, big step forward, and we were really happy to see that happen. We also called for government to prioritize relief and recovery funds, and we saw the LA County step up with a $10 million contribution of the CARES Act funding allocated to the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. That was a very big step on part of government. We also saw on the LA City side, Councilmember Rue, Councilmember Krikorian, and the Department of Cultural Affairs, Danielle Brazel. They developed a new program that essentially reallocated what are called artist development fees. This is the 1% fee on development in the city of LA. They reallocated some of that money towards relief and recovery funds for the arts and culture community. And so that was nearly $1 million in both artist dollars and arts organization dollars. So all in all, we're seeing the counties and the cities and private philanthropy step forward.
No, that's great. And you mentioned the work of Councilmember David Rue and Paul Kokorian and some others. How had the arts development fees been allocated previously, and what is going to be the practical impact of that reallocation of resources, and how does that money get distributed to support the arts community?
Sure. So I think historically that money has about 90% of it has gone to festivals, citywide festivals, district festivals, and we all know that at this time the future of these type of festivals is very unclear. And so this was one of the key reasoning used to be able to repurpose some of these dollars. Some of these funds, I think it was a few weeks ago that an artist relief fund um, was introduced to the Department of Cultural Affairs. You could apply through that effort, and that was the money that was repurposed, going through the Department of Cultural Affairs. The arts organization dollars that is coming very very soon. Um, but one of the things I want to highlight for you is that when the application opened, uh, there were nearly 700 artists who applied almost overnight to
Wow.
that program, and the money was clearly not enough. And part of what I also want to emphasize here is the funding for the Department of Cultural Affairs. The Department of Cultural Affairs is primarily funded through what is called the TOT tax. It's the hotel bed tax.
Right, the transit occupancy tax. Yes.
That's exactly right. And we know that due to these times, TOT is down significantly.
Right.
And as I had mentioned previously, there are hundreds of arts and culture organizations that are grantees of the Department of Cultural Affairs. And so at this moment, Arts for LA has a call to action for the community, geared towards the city, asking for CARES Act funding from the city to be reallocated to the Department of Cultural Affairs and to the arts and culture art organizations who have been deeply impacted by COVID-19. These are the performing arts organizations that we were just talking about, and the many other types of organizations. This is a critical call to action at this moment, because if we're looking down the pike and we see that TOT funding is down, and we know this is inevitably going to hit our community, there is something, an intervention that needs to take place now. And so, for the listeners, I do encourage folks to please log on to Arts for LA, to our website, and there is a take action button. I encourage folks to take action. I encourage folks to reach out to your council members and let them know the importance of the arts and culture in your communities, because we're in a deeply critical and dire moment.
And certainly on our website in the episode notes, we have artsforla.org listed for folks to get involved and learn more. But you've spoken about the CARES Act. So for those who may be listening, not from California or not from the United States, let's just share with them the CARES Act, which is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, Economic Security Act. And that's money from the federal government. Do you anticipate additional stimulus from the federal government, and what's come through this act to California or through LA and onward to the arts at this point in time? How much are we talking about?
Yeah, so on the county side, we saw about $1.2 billion allocated from the CARES Act relief funds to the county.
Okay.
The city saw an additional allocation of about, I think it was about $660 million that went towards the city, and this is all CARES Act. And we are watching all federal funding conversations very closely. We know that's ever changing, and we're advocating for additional relief funds. Of course, the payment protection program has been critical, and so a second round of that would be is very needed for the community. There are also other efforts, advocacy efforts like Save Our Stages, that are very important to the field. But we are watching all of these conversations very closely. We work closely with our partners at Californians for the Arts,
Hmm.
who is also tracking this very closely, and Americans for the Arts, who has just been an incredible nationwide advocate. And so that is our nationwide partners, uh, our state partners, and then us as regional. We're working very closely in tandem to make sure that we're being the best possible advocates at all levels of government.
No, that's very impressive, and we know advocacy is the top of your agenda. But at the same time, we know that Arts for LA is still running a number of key programs for your constituents. So, despite the pandemic, you're advancing a number of programs. Share some of your key programs that you're still running.
Yeah, so we believe strongly in leadership development. We have a program called Activate. That program is running as we speak, and this program is really about uh, how we can work directly with a cohort of individuals to build their ability to drive systemic change. And we do an entire curriculum and create some direct experiences where they can practice that leadership, whether it's leading days of advocacy at city council, or whether it's envisioning a new advocacy campaign or new program, new organization, and then we try and provide the tools for how to do that and how to get that started. But additionally, we're right in the heat right now of planning for our big annual conference, and this conference is called State of the Arts, and it's happening on October 16th. And we invite all of the listeners to join us for State of the Arts. This is going to be an incredible convening, half day convening that brings together cross sector leaders, cross discipline leaders in the arts and culture community to do two things. One is to share the state of the arts in LA County, and that is really informed by what we're hearing through our community listening. And two is we will be a few weeks away from a big election, and we want to make sure that our supporters, that our community understand the importance of the November election, understand the ballot initiatives that are at the state level and locally, and the relevance that they have to our community. And so that summit will focus on those two things: sharing the state of the arts, and then preparing our community for the November election.
And certainly prior to this summit in October, I understand you have a number of community strategy sessions that are underway currently. Can you speak to those strategy sessions and who's participating in those, and how do people get involved in those strategy sessions leading up to the big summit in October?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, the goal of the summit is to share the state of the arts. And so, all throughout the month of September, we are hosting what we call community strategy sessions. They happen every Thursday at 10 a.m. They are free 1 hour sessions where we're focused on the four key topics that Arts for LA addresses: issues of affordable space, issues of arts education, creative jobs, and funding. So every week we're tackling one issue. We invite everybody to join at 10 a.m. and join the conversation. We have somebody who offers a frame to the conversation, and so some perspective, a policy landscape. Here's what we're looking at this current time, and then we turn it over into breakout discussions and let folks discuss the challenges, discuss the solutions, and ultimately, folks report all that back to us. And every week, we're gathering that information. At the end of this month, we'll consolidate, distill, find the trends, and that's part of what we'll report out on State of the Arts. So it's the state of the arts by the voices of the community.
And who can participate in these strategy sessions? Can anyone participate? Or do you have to be a member of the Arts for LA organization?
At this point, everybody can participate in these conversations. And all you have to do is go onto our site. You'll see a big banner that says State of the Arts. You click on that, and the registration is very easy.
Okay.
Just a few bits of information. We send you all the details for the Zoom links, the call in information. And again, it's 1 hour of your day. There's a lot of talk at this moment in time about reimagination, Dwayne, and that's what these conversations are. It's the opportunity to seize this moment, to reimagine the future with us, and what comes out of these conversations, these will become our policy solutions for 2021, and that's what we're really focused on.
And you've talked a lot about advocacy at the local level, the regional level, state level, and national level. Can you share any thoughts on philanthropy and in the region? Clearly, I think at some point we'll have the Center for Nonprofit Management come onto our program to talk about resources and the state of philanthropy in our region. How are arts and culture faring compared to other sectors, whether it's religious, health, education, in terms of private philanthropy here in our region where there is a lot of wealth?
Yeah, I look forward to that conversation with Center for Nonprofit Management. So I will definitely be listening in for that one, and we'll invite my community to listen in because I think that that's something that folks are very interested in. We have been, part of the challenge that we face in Los Angeles is uh, we we are the creative capital of the world, and we do not have the type of private philanthropic support that other major creative cities have. And that's the bottom line of it. And we, as advocates, we try and make that case. Again, we've seen private philanthropy step up in this moment in big ways with leadership through the Getty Foundation, through Parsons Foundation. We need others to step forward. And this is a critical moment. We understand that the challenges are broad, and there are all sorts of basic needs challenges in this moment, and so we understand that. And one of the things I always share with whomever I'm speaking to is that the arts are a solution partner, and the field is ready to be of support to the efforts and to the challenges, and I think we've got some work to do there.
I'm wondering, again, I know you do a lot of work at the government level. Does Arts for LA also work to sort of engage and cultivate, emerging private philanthropy? Obviously there's a lot of, I'm not going to call it new money, but a lot of growing wealth, particularly in Silicon Beach and the tech community. And I'll just go off script here a little bit and share, my time serving 7 seasons on the board of the Broad Stage in Santa Monica, at Santa Monica College Performing Arts Center, and we were always trying to figure out ways to, here we are in Santa Monica, this thriving, successful, very wealthy community within the region, and trying to find, how do we build greater connections to younger, younger potential donors? How do you cultivate them? How do you get them engaged? Do you all work to help bring in, a new cohort of private philanthropy?
We're certainly in constant talks with private philanthropy and the leaders, the heads of private philanthropy. We are hosting this arts funding conversation. I think it's on September 24th of this month to begin really planting the seeds around what kind of um, education work, advocacy work we could do that's more targeted towards private philanthropy. There's huge opportunity, and like you described in the tech space and the skills that are inherent in tech, our creative skills. There's a connection there that we can continue to build. I know Snap Foundation has been a great partner to many arts and cultural organizations, but there are so many others, and so I think there's room, there's opportunity to build that out.
Well, again, there are just a lot of talented men and women here in this region. There's a lot of wealth in this region, and we just need to find ways to build those connections. So we're happy to share what we learn from your strategy sessions and share that with others. Before we wind down, you know give us a prognosis about your thoughts on the creative economy in Los Angeles as we move into 2021 and beyond.
I think that this is a moment of true, it's a true opportunity to recalibrate the field. And we can't be afraid to step into this moment and to challenge the things that have not worked in the field, to call that out and begin to make the kind of long term changes that we need to make. Fundamentally, artists are innovators, and arts organizations are constantly uh, pushing to drive change. And I think that these are the inherent values of our field, and we'll continue to push to ensure that stakeholders understand that value. And this is a huge opportunity to do that reimagination. We just can't step away from it, and I think the field is going to step into it and drive change. And so I'm very excited and inspired by that opportunity. I have an incredible team that is working around the clock, and I just have to give a quick shout out to Aubrey and Cordelia and Casey, who are working around the clock to ensure that we can be the best possible advocates and the board, because everybody is driving for change, and I think that the field is going to move in a positive direction.
Outstanding, Gustavo. This has been a great conversation. We're really excited to learn about the work that you're doing and applaud the team that you've assembled to carry out this work. Share with our audience one more time the State of the Arts Summit, the date, time, and where we can find more information.
State of the Art Summit, October 16th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can log on to www.artsforla.org. There'll be a big banner there, State of the Arts. You can click that, and that'll lead you to ticket sales. And in addition, I invite everybody to join our community strategy sessions. Same website, click same banner, and you'll get all the information for how to become a part of these community strategy sessions. We hope to see you there.
No, and we look forward to, again, posting this on our website, www.civitasla.com, but we'll also promote this in promoting the episode as well. So, Gustavo, before we leave, we always like to have a lightning round where we get to know our guests a little bit more and our guests LA. So a few questions, no right or wrong answers, just a quick lightning round. Where are you from originally? You share with us.
Silver Lake.
Silver Lake. Which neighborhood do you live in currently, if you care to share?
West Covina.
Oh, you moved out of town. Okay. Mobility is big in LA. Uber, Lyft, yellow cab, bike, bus, walk, metro, or scooter. Clearly, you don't scooter from West Covina.
No scooter. Lyft, definitely walk too.
Favorite LA restaurant?
Currently, Friends in Chinatown.
I don't know that. Okay. Favorite spot to take a visitor to Los Angeles?
It's a good question. The Hollywood sign.
Okay. Lakers or Clippers?
Lakers.
Rams or Chargers?
Not a football guy, but Chargers.
You can have a no. You can have a no answer. That's
you
fine.
know what? No answer.
No
I
answer.
want to
Okay.
edit that. No answer.
Dodgers or Angels?
Dodgers.
Favorite park in Los Angeles?
Legion Park.
Okay, excellent. Gustavo, we really appreciate you. We appreciate the work of Arts for LA. This has been a great dialogue, and we really look forward to working more with you and promoting the upcoming summit in October. Hopefully, we can have you and your colleagues on again to discuss the progress that you're making, because we know this is going to be a recurring topic, because this particular sector that you serve, this community that you serve, is so critically important to the economic health and well-being of our region. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Appreciate you and appreciate your team.
And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we hope you join us next week as we look forward to another great conversation. And once again, please visit www.artsforla.org to learn more about the important work of Arts for LA and the upcoming summit. Until we meet again, stay strong and get involved. To learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com. And we hope you'll connect with us on social media on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and Twitter at Civitas_LA.